Welcome to Goat State, the Street Smarts footage analysis series. Today we're taking a look at Dae-Hoon of Korea versus Ahmad Abughaush of Jordan. Lee is a 3-time world champion and 2-time Olympic medalist. Abughaush is an Olympic champion and world medalist. This is their first meeting since Abughaush defeated Lee in the 2016 Olympic semifinal on his way to gold. Before we begin, it's important to understand what we're looking for. If you're new to Street Smarts, our platform focuses on making mindset trainable so your performance under pressure is repeatable. When we do footage analysis, we evaluate the mental game through 3 lenses. First, the slice. We break the match down exchange by exchange because this gives us the clearest insight into what's happening beneath the surface. Insight into the athlete's mindset in real time. Second, control. We take a look at who's driving the exchange, who dictates when it happened and what shape it takes. Control shows you where the momentum is shifting and often where the match is headed. Third, routine. We take a look at what's happening from a rhythmic standpoint inside each individual exchange. What are the athletes building? How are they creating their shots? What type of shots are they creating? And most importantly, is it systematic or is it random? Because that will tell you how strong that athlete's mental game is on that particular day. Without further ado, let's get into the match. Oh, Jordanian's going right for it. Okay. All right, pause. All right, we're about 10 seconds into the match. Let's see what's happened so far. So they're both jockeying for position. The Jordanian is using his front leg almost like a jab, like a boxer's jab. And the Korean is using his footwork and checks and motions to establish his rhythm. So they're both jockeying for position to see who's going to control the exchange. And each one has a little bit of a different approach. Now, just a heads up, the movement requires less energy than the kicking. So that's something that I think might play out over the course of the match. Let's see how the rest of this goes. Okay, the Jordanian again is using that front leg to jab. And again, the Korean comes back with the movement. Okay. All right, pause. All right, if you've seen, the Jordanian is, again, he's leading with that jab. The Korean has used the jab a little bit and kicked a little bit, but it was mostly put to keep the Jordanian at bay, to keep him in place. But he always goes back to the checks, motion, footwork. All right, let's continue. Okay, stop. That was an interesting decision by the Jordanian. He changed the technique selection. So far he's just been jabbing with that front leg, trying to dictate the exchange, and now he's changed up the technique selection. There's a couple ways we can break through. We can increase the pace, we can increase the intensity, or the technique selection. The pace basically means we're going to have more exchanges. We're going to try to create more exchanges. So it's the rate of the exchanges. The intensity is how you set up, how much pressure you use within the exchange. And the technique selection is obviously you're changing up the look to try to break through the athlete's guard. So he really hasn't established rhythm with his jab yet, but he's already going to kind of like the next line of offense, and he's trying a new technique to see if it scores. From a mental standpoint, that's actually not such a good progression. It's indicating a little bit of nervousness on the Jordanian side. Let's see how the Korean responds, if he feels the pressure to go ahead and attack back or if he reverts back to his movement. All right, and there he goes. He's back to the movement. Let's pause for a second, actually. It's very interesting, okay? The Korean went right back to his movement, but with more pressure. So he might be sensing the fact that there's a little bit of a breakdown in the Jordanian's game. But again, he went right back to the checks, motions, movement, and putting pressure on the Jordanian by dictating when and how the exchange is actually going to go. Again, you got to break it down slice by slice. Otherwise, the match kind of gets away from you, especially if you want to understand things from a mental standpoint. Okay, time. Let's go back to that. Let's see that again. Jordanian scores here. Let's see how we did that. Okay, the Korean's moving forward. Jordanian's moving back. Okay, stop. Okay, that's interesting. So what happened there was the Jordanian moved back. He used his footwork. Then he used his jab. And then he was in position to follow up with a punch. Okay? Rhythm first, then the jab, and then the punch. All right? See what happens next. Korean again, still using his movement, not changing anything. Okay, pause. You can see that the Jordanian here thinks he's got something because, again, he uses the jab and then follow up with the punch because that's what just got him his score a second ago. The only thing is, though, there wasn't much of a setup. It's not like he's using his rhythm, his motions or checks or anything to get to set up the jab. He's kind of rushing it. Let's continue. The Korean is dictating most of the exchanges. In other words, he's establishing the rhythm in the exchange. All right. And again, the Korean goes right back to that movement. The Jordanian goes right back to the jab. Ooh, that was a good... Let's pause. Again, that was a good attempt by the Jordanian because he's moving. Again, he sets things up with that front leg as a jab. And boom, takes the shot. That rhythm, let's pause it. That rhythm, actually, where it's called disrupting. He's disrupting the Korean's rhythm, right? He moves, jab to disrupt the guy's progression and his setup, and then fires. That's the second time that actually got through. The first time was the punch. The second time that he's really taking the time to move, set up with the jab, and then follow up. And both times he broke through the Korean's defense. You can see the Jordanian is, once he's done that little sequence of jab, jab, and punch, he's shutting down. That's the only thing he's looking for. And the last time he got hit, but it didn't score, this time he got tagged by the Korean. So the Korean, even though he's gotten hit twice, he's already responding from a rhythmic standpoint, from a pattern recognition standpoint. And even though he's getting hit, once the guy breaks through, he's going ahead and firing. That we call reestablishing. In this case, the Jordanian broke through, but rather than just kind of take it or completely restart, the Korean reestablishes the rhythm and hits him on the way out. And then he's on him. Boom. And a punch. Okay, so the Korean's reestablished. That was a really good sequence. He's reestablished the rhythm. And again, he's right back on him with his footwork, movement. You can see it's making the Jordanian nervous and a little bit tired. Let's pause for a second, go back. Let's watch that again. He's on him, punch. All right, and again, that movement. Look, the Jordanian's got to be, he's moving around, but look how close he is. So he's in the firing distance, right? Korean's right there, so the Jordanian is forced to do something. Again with the jab. Oh, okay. Let's pause for a second. You can see he wasn't ready. He's already a bit fatigued. He's getting scored on. He uses that front leg a little bit, but it's a bit lackadaisy. And then the follow-up. Again, he's doing what worked in the previous sequences, but without the energy, physical or mental energy that he had at the beginning. So it's not as sharp, not as crisp, and doesn't score. 10 seconds left almost. Again, Korean goes back to his movement. 5. I think they're going to let this run out. Okay, so what do we have here so far? We have two types of ways to try to control the exchange. The Jordanian is using his jab, usually without a setup. In other words, he's not using his footwork or motions or anything to really set it up, and he hasn't gained control of the exchange. The Korean, on the other hand, is using his footwork, checks, motions to create his shots, to set up his shots, and has basically gained control of the exchange, right? So If I were the Koreans coach, I'd tell him to go ahead and continue with that approach. In fact, he could probably put a little bit more pressure on it since it's working so well. If I was the Jordanians coach, I'd be letting him know, look, the 2 or 3 times you broke through were when you were using your rhythm, you were using your setup, then the jab, then the technique that you wanted to score with. Go ahead and give the mind a moment to recognize when the exchange starts. Do it from a place that you're in control. The Korean isn't reading it, and that's where, in this match, that's where the gap is. That's where his opening is. So let's see what happens in round 2. All right. Oh, stop. Okay. Again, there wasn't much to this. This first kick, no setup, is pretty it's pretty transparent. I'll give a quick basketball analogy here. You can take shots. You can throw the ball at the basket. The ball might go in. You might score a basket. But there's a difference between having a systematic approach to how you're going to create shots versus just taking shots. In this case, the Jordanians are kind of just taking shots. I'd like to see, like I said before, a little bit of more of a setup and a rhythmic approach to what he was doing. Again, from a mental standpoint, we perform best when there is a rhythmic approach and you're making that rhythm routine. The mind has time to read, or what we said on the platform, for those of you who have watched, we say feelize. You're feelizing what's happening. It's basically the ability to kind of read and respond in real time. And if you don't give your mind this time to break that down and to get that feeling, to get that read, you're always off, and the energy the wheels kind of come off the car, so to speak. So let's continue, see what's going on. Again, the Korean is also using his front leg as a jab. So if you're kind of taking a first glance at it, it might look like they're doing the same thing. The only difference is that the Korean does it basically just to reset the exchange. Oh, okay. Time. Let's go back to that sequence. Okay. Again, look how uncomfortable Korea is making Jordan with his checks and motions. He's not getting a chance to even reset mentally or physically. Hands are on the knees, shifting, kicking, and really nothing behind that. Just almost like a Hail Mary combo. Again, he's on him again, the Korean, with his movement. And the Jordanian goes right back to that jab. And again, a little bit of a Hail Mary attack. All of this is an indication that from a mental standpoint, he's taxed already. And let's pause. We're almost halfway through the second round. So we're now 3 minutes. It's a 6-minute match. We're 3 minutes into it. And it's only 5-2. So it's not like it's a big gap from a point standpoint. But from a mental standpoint, the Jordanian is taxed. The Korean is fresh. He just keeps going back to his setup, to his routine. Rhythmic, routine, simple, clear, gives him time to feelize, to read what's going on, and to set and choose and pick his moments. The Jordanian is uncomfortable, taking a lot of different types of shots with no real setup. No, it's a bit reactive. And now again, the score is relatively close, but from a mental standpoint, it looks like we might be at a tipping point. Let's see how this progresses. Okay, time. Again, we're halfway through the match. This was the first time. It's the first time the Koreans really set up something to score. Right? The other times he scored because the opportunity presented itself by the Jordanian. The Jordanian did something, it presented itself, he reestablished his rhythm. Fine. It took till now where you really see a clear setup by the Korean. The cut to put him in where he wants him, gives him time to reset, goes to the open side, then backside on the arm and backside on the chest protector. And then the Jordanian is right on him, but you could see it frustrated him. Then he goes right back. Look how close the Korean is here. He feels, let's pause for a second. He feels completely at peace. All right. If he can stand that close, that means he knows he's complete control of the exchange. He's getting his reads. You don't get that close unless you're completely in the zone, feeling where the match is going. You're feelizing everything. All of the, all of the radars are on lock. Okay, so right now, again, it's only 7-2, but unless the Jordanian does anything, this match is already over. Okay, that was actually a pretty good shift, what the Jordanian did there. He gave himself the time, moving back, check. And then the cut. Moving back. Okay, see, again, when he went back to the movement, and then the cut, not to try to just for throwing it, just for the sake of throwing it, but to throw it to dictate, to control the exchange, it presented an opportunity. This was exactly what he was doing well in the first round. It's the only thing so far that's broken through the Koreans' defense, movement, rhythm. Again, if you're doing it from a tactical standpoint, it's not the same as understanding what it's doing from a mental standpoint. From a mental standpoint, he's controlling the exchange. Every time he controls the exchange through his footwork and the cut, the opportunity presents itself. Especially when the Korean is kind of moving forward, it disrupts his rhythm, and the Jordanian breaks through. All right, time. But you can see that the Korean has already, he's comfortable with the fact that even if the Jordanian comes back, because he knows that the Jordanian shuts down right after that, and he's susceptible to getting scored on. So even though he got hit, boom, he's on him. So the Jordanian just used all that rhythm, all that energy to try to get back into position. You can see, hands on the knees, he's tired already, right? So he did a good action. Let's pause. It didn't score. Shut down mentally because he's already taxed. He gets tagged, and now he's in the hole again. Oh, okay, time. Let's pause for a second. You can see that was a bit of a weak attempt, and then another kick, no setup. He's just kicking now with no setup. No, he's not dictating. He's not controlling the exchange. He's not creating any rhythm. Landing, and because of that, that's why you see him landing out of position. He's fatigued. The shots aren't really accurate. A little, just kind of throwing for the sake of throwing. Again, this doesn't mean that the Jordanian is going to do this every single time. The guy's an Olympic champion. It's not like he doesn't know what he's doing. But in this match, if we're just analyzing exchange by exchange, what's going on from a mental standpoint, this match was almost over in the first round. And for sure, halfway through the second round, this was starting to become a problem. The only way for the Jordanian to come back at this point is if he reestablishes his mental game, right? So if he starts controlling the exchanges, using his setup to get a good feel for what's going on, and then start breaking things down, especially as the Korean's progressing, because the Korean wasn't reading those shots very well. If I'm the Korean, I'm going to expect the Jordanian to kind of come out now a little bit more aggressively, but all he has to do is just maintain the distance and control the exchange, and he'll be fine. So again, he didn't make a good enough adjustment. He's just going right back to that. Don't get confused with something scoring, to the mental game being in control. Those aren't necessarily the same thing. You can shoot a ball and it goes into the basket. Doesn't necessarily mean you got a good structure. You're taking good shots. All right. So, yeah, that scored. It scored because he's increased the pace, and he's already thrown 3 or 4 or 5 techniques already. So it's, one of them is bound to land. But he hasn't adjusted the biggest issue here. So again, even though it's only a 5-point game, which in the match from a point standpoint is really close, but from a mental standpoint, it's really, there's a big gap. See, let's pause. He didn't even see that. Okay, he just kind of threw some kicks to Jordanian and then got tagged. Again, the Korean only really set up, this is the third round. He's only had to really set up, where he had the patience to set up one exchange. Everything else presented itself to him because of what the Jordanian did, right? Again, that now it's 12-4. It's just the Jordanian took bad shots, wasn't in good position, and boop, he got tagged in the head. No, can I give that punch? Ooh. Okay, let's go back for a second. The longer the Korean is in that position where he can read or feelize, or he's controlling the exchange, the better it's going to go. Look how close he is. Boom. All right, let's go back for a second. All right. What happened there was every exchange so far, they've been taking a while before they took the shots. This is if you notice, as soon as the exchange started, and what I mean by exchange is, look where they're both in position. As soon as they're in position, he fires. Okay? No setup, no jab, no nothing. He just breaks through. That's disruptive to the Korean's rhythm, because the Korean is taking his time to set up his plan. Okay? So it's interesting because it was another way to break through what the Korean did, which is basically just choosing when he takes his shots. All right. So rather than wait for everything to kind of get settled, get established, and where he was at a disadvantage, taking the shot at the beginning of the exchange. So it could have been another strategy for the Jordanian, that if he was basically just moving around and then kind of shot at the beginning of the exchange as opposed to in the middle or later, and go for the score at the beginning, not just kind of the jab, might have presented itself as well. 10 seconds. This is already basically garbage time.